Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Matchbook Horse Racing podcast. This is Cheltenham days 1 and 2. Honestly, it feels like there's been more build-up this year than ever before. I know that's not the case, but I still can't wait to get going tomorrow. Declan Rix is with us. Rixie, how are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm buzzing, it's fair to say. You going to be there?
Probably not, actually, at the moment. Yeah, don't think I will be, sadly. But yeah, we'll be there in spirit and via TV, so we'll be all good.
Well, you'll probably be punting better because you'll be watching on TV. There you go, and you won't be affected by the booze.
That is a very good point. I lost the run of myself when Constitution bolted up by 40 lengths last year. I think I had a hangover by the last.
Yeah, there you go. Adele Mulrennan is with us. Adele, given the videos on social media from Saturday night with you, you look fairly sharp. You look all right.
I look like I've recovered well. I can barely remember it, to be honest with you.
Well, that's why the videos are good to look back on. They're not really out there, but good to see you. Long shot, Ted. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well, Tom. Yeah, the reason why the build up to Cheltenham seems like it's gone on forever is because you've been on 31 preview nights. So that's let's cut to the chase.
And that's still 400 less than David Jennings. I don't even know why I'm getting on that bandwagon. I just saw a comment about that on Twitter, David, if you're watching. You live in Cheltenham, Ed?
Yep, I'm a mile from the track.
Right,
mile from the racecourse.
It's sunny, so what's going on?
It is at the moment. Yeah, I'm my daffodils are looking in rude health. But a lot of rain. Officially soft at the time of recording. Pelted it down overnight. So it was bouncing off the garage and a few more showers coming into it. So yeah, rip the preview notes up and start again. As I said, the majority of previews have been on the assumption of, quote, spring ground. Well, that's a myth. Yeah, you're a million to be getting that. It did make me laugh that old John Pullen, bless him, put the absolute mockers on, didn't he, at the handicaps weight launch a couple of weeks ago, saying there's zero rainfall on the charts at the end of the Cheltenham Festival. And then it's done pretty much nothing but rain every day subsequently. So, yeah, it's going to take some getting. I think it'll be hard work. And I think a lot of the mudlarks are definitely coming into this if the ground is as I walked the course on Sunday on the outside of it. And, it's going to take a bit of getting, especially if we get another band of rain moving through Monday night into Tuesday morning.
There's an excellent column out there by Matt Toombs, the spieler, who you'll have seen plenty of on this podcast, on Matchbook Insights, talking about Cheltenham being a dual track course and about how he's expecting it to ride a good bit better on the new course than the old course. And that's really worth the reasons why getting stuck into, I think. There's lots of Cheltenham content out there from all different angles, from Matt's articles to our different podcasts we've done, the handicap previews, etc. The Cheltenham podcast in its as a solo one we did, and also the guys have been building up with lots of podcasts between DC and Matt Toombs and Dan Hussey. And also we've got this one for days 1 and 2, and join us Wednesday evening at 6:30 when we're going to be doing days 3 and 4. And to have all that content in your inbox whenever you want it, just like and subscribe, and it makes it easier to watch each and every podcast we do. Let's get stuck straight into the preview then. The Supreme Novices Hurdle, Facile Vega sitting pretty at the top of that, betting at 3.65. Marine Nationale 5.8. Il Eteton 6.4. 11.5 Tamurus, best of the British in the pocket 16.0. Bigger prices the rest. Adele Mulrennan, tell us why you're looking away from the favourite.
Oh, there's plenty of reasons why. Although Mullins is still very bullish about Facile Vega. So, I mean, unless I'm kind of reading that race completely wrong, like I understand he wasn't happy about how quick they went at Leopardstown, but I just can't, they maybe went a stride quick. I wouldn't say they went flat out. Like the horse I've picked, I can never pronounce his name. Il Eteton was absolutely pulling Danny's arms out the whole way around. I know he kind of just was slightly off the pace, but when high definition unseated JJ Slevin, I think, was that 4 out? It was halfway. So then Facile Vega kind of then had the race in his hand for the last half of the race, but he ran to me like he was over the top. Do you know when? Have you ever heard that about a horse when they're over the top and then they just completely bomb out as soon as you let them down off the bridle? I feel like he was more like that. rather than they went absolutely flat out. And I thought, if he can't cope with that pace, they ain't going to cope with the pace in the Supreme, then is he either? Whereas I still think Alette Tomps was the one who did really benefit from a strong run race. And I think the faster they go, the better. He seemed to jump better. Like I said, he was still pulling Danny's arms out and still managed to have a turn of foot for the finish. So he's the one, when I look back through the race, I think when you look at his performance that he put, he was the one that I thought was a good one. So, and I thought there was a lot to take out of his performance. So that's who I'm going with.
Anything else at a bigger price?
Yeah, higher definition, I suppose, purely because I do think he's got a future over jumps. Whether what level yet we don't know, because he was the one that was kind of pushing the pace that day. So yeah, at the place market with him, because we just don't know really what level he's at. Plenty of jumpers in his pedigree, though, so you'd think he might even get a little bit further as well. So we'll see with him. But yeah, he's big enough to play at the place market.
Rixie, who are you with and why?
Yeah, I'm gonna side with Marine Nationale, but at the moment it's not with a lot of confidence. We don't know what the ground is going to be like. Cheltenham, for some reason, haven't updated the going sticks since Saturday. They made a meal of the ground last year, if we're being honest. It was very quick on Tuesday, too quick. Then they watered on top of rain. So I don't know what to expect. I suppose that if you're making a case for Marine Nationale, he did win in this kind of December heavy going. So you're thinking March, soft ground, maybe with a little bit of good in it, he might be able to get away with it. I struggled to back Facile Vega with any confidence on his last run. He was lame for a week afterwards. Willie says he's happy with his prep. I'm not sure many trainers would be happy with a horse who's lame for a week. But look, he knows what he's at, obviously. Alette Tomps was very good at that day. I just thought that the further he went, the better he looked, actually. But I just think Marine Nationale just could have a little bit more in the locker. I know a lot of people are saying he only beat Irish Point the last day, and that's fair. But he also only beat Ashroe Diamond, who's gone on to improve again, and has champ Quigley. So I think the form is there. I'm just hoping he will get away with the ground. Look, he knows how to win this horse. He's been to the track 4 times and he's won 4 races. Barry Kyle was interviewed in Sky Sports Racing last weekend and just literally couldn't have said. He basically said everything Barry's going to win, which was just crazy good interview. If you get a chance to go back and look at it, it'll be on the At the Races social media channels. Yeah, Marine Nationale for me, but not with any great confidence until we know what the ground is like.
Edward.
Yeah, wide open, but I'm generally with Adele. I couldn't be back in Facile Vega at the relevant price. I mean, you're essentially asking me to back a horse who was pulled up 6 weeks ago in a Grade 1 at Cheltenham against a whole host of unexposed rivals who could be anything, to use that old cliche, but they could be, couldn't they? I get the gut feeling this could be more of an Eberzion Lebeck year than necessarily seeing the Constitution Hill or Altior coming through. See what I'm saying? So I've gone. I'm pretty tentative of those at the top of the market. Alette Tomps is the one I probably would side with, who is tightening up in the market as we speak. Has come in a couple of points. Facile Vega slightly uneasy. Alette Tomps was north of 8 only 3 days or so ago. So probably Alette Tomps for the protagonist, but I've gone with Ollie Murphy's horse as a small win and place bet, Chasing Fire. It's an individual. I think it's a type of year where it could be more about what horses haven't done rather than what they have, and you could be tying yourselves in knots over some very murky kind of form lines. And this individual, not too dissimilar to Marine Nationale in the sense, has been to the track, is unbeaten, was 170 grand purchase after dotting up in a point, and has just gone through the gears to win very minor events. Like the collateral form is miles away from what others have achieved, but he hasn't really had the chance to prove it, if you see what I'm saying. And there's the echoes of the Thomas Darby's part 2 about this horse. Obviously, familiar silks and connections, and Thomas Darby chased home Classical Dream in this race 4 months ago. I thought 27 or thereabouts, win and place. I wouldn't be shocked if he stayed. Also, just from a pedigree point of view, he is a Maxios, who obviously is flat-bred, but his sire loved deep ground in France. What a Moulin when the jockey's wearing 9 pairs of goggles. So if he's got any of his father's traits, I don't think this recent rain will be much of a problem. So all in all, I think this is wide open. I think you could easily look away from Facile Vega. I think there are better 5-2 shots or thereabouts running at market raisin than trying to take on the whole host of unexposed sorts in a grade 1. So take it on Facile Vega firmly at the prices and chasing fire, small win and place.
Well, I think you're definitely right that there are better 5-2 shots out there or 3.5 shots out there than Facile Vega. But we all know the one rule of punting is to ignore value at your peril. And I've finally come down at Cheltenham to realising that is what you need to do. And it's not about value at Cheltenham. That's a complete myth. It's about 4 days worth of winners. I've backed far too many value losers at the Cheltenham.
Yeah.
Far too many. And the thing is, Facile Vega is just so comfortably on his day the best horse in this race and the most likely winner. I think there's every chance he was undercooked last time. And he blew up. I know he came back lame. I think ground's a bit overplayed for him, but there's a reason that he's been popular in the betting. And that's obviously because at home they've stepped it up massively on him. And they've gone, right, let's find out. This is Cheltenham and it's Willie Mullins. He doesn't miss. And they've really got to the bottom of him and found out that he is shit hot. And that's why the money's come from him. There's no money hasn't come from him because people are going, he was pulled up last time. It's because they've stepped it up at home. They've realised what they've got. They've realised that the other Mullins runners are also Rans, and this horse just wins the.
Go on, Tom.
Yeah, I'm done with value losers at Cheltenham. I'm done. This is not. I totally agree. If you back 10 horses of this profile over the season, you'll lose money. But this is 4 days of Cheltenham. It's not about trying to find value. It's not about good value losers. It's about winners over 4 days, and he fits that bill. He's my best bet on the day. Moving on.
Cheers. It's lovely to be here.
To the Arkle. Now, I'm frightened, team. I'm really frightened because none of us are putting up El Fabiolo at 2.68. One of us hasn't got a bet, which, to be completely frank and quick, is pathetic. Oh. And we're all going with a 2.82 shot in Jumbo, which Declan Rix is frightening me because I don't want us all to be wrong.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time, would it? But I think Jobbod's he's the horse to beat. Look, I know they clashed at Aintree last year, and Il Fabiolo at the time, I think he was having just his third ever career start, his second for Willie Mullins. To go as close as he did to John Bon on that day was, absolutely superb effort. He was actually having his third career start at Aintree. And look, he looked like a horse who was going to be better over fences. But so did John Bon, to be fair. And John Bon came off the back of that really tough run behind Constitution Hill in the Supreme, where if you kind of listen to the murmurings behind the scenes, everyone in kind of Seven Barrows knew if Constitution Hill ran his race and got the bounce of the ball and whatnot, he was going to beat John Bon comfortably, and that's how it played out. So I think Aidan Coleman was forced to kind of go and take the race to him. And in doing that, he kind of got caught up a little bit in Dysart Dynamo, and they took each other on. I think much softer ground this year is going to be a big help to him. Full brother to Duvan, who was a machine on soft and heavy ground. While Il Fabiolo has improved, so has John Bon, definitely. I just think the track is going to suit John Bon better. I think Il Fabiolo, he's quite leggy, big horse. I think those flat tracks, I know Leopardstown's not pancake flat, but I think those flatter tracks are going to suit him. His jumping wouldn't be as under much pressure. John Bon is the better jumper. I think Aidan Coleman, just ride him like a good horse. Don't go chasing Dysart Dynamo again. Track the pace and just ride him with confidence because, he is a very, very good horse. I can understand if people want to take him on after the Warwick run, but I would much prefer the Warwick race as a prep compared to what Il Fabiolo did. Il Fabiolo put up a seriously impressive time performance at Leopardstown the last day. When you do that, you just, you probably leave your race behind. And I just wonder, Blue Lord did the exact same thing last year at the Dublin Racing Festival. He won very well in a good time, and he left his race behind in the Arkle. So I'd much prefer John Bond's prep. So long story short, it's going to be John Bond for me in the Arkle.
You sort of stole my line on preference for the prep, Rixie. I completely agree. He wasn't very impressive, but he would have been half cooked. It's just, you know, and Harry Skelton rode a good race. So I've got nothing to add. Adele.
Prep race, because with him being quite, like, he's a very strong traveller and quite has been quite a naturally quite gassy horse. So I can't imagine at home he would ever really come off the bridle. So I actually preferred at Warwick that he did have to get after him, because I actually wouldn't have wanted him to go into Cheltenham not having been off the bridle, if you know what I mean. Because like I said, I don't think he would be a horse at home who would be let down off the bridle, because he just seems to find like everything. So he does everything so easily. What you really do need to look into is, like, last season, you know, he'd ran at Cheltenham, he'd come up against Constitution Hill, to come back 3 weeks later and then go to Aintree. He'd run at 2 big festivals. Like, he's got a very, very good mind. Like, he loves racing. You watch him, his ears pricked. He absolutely loves it. He's like that. That's a very strong character to have in a horse that can run at that 2 big festivals like that, come up against Constitution Hill and then go again at Aintree. And he had got a bit warm in the parade ring, so you could see it had slightly left a little mark on him at Cheltenham, but he still won. Like, he just looks different class again this year over fences. He's so athletic, so well balanced, and like I said, so sharp minded, and he is the real deal, John Bond. Like, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, Adele just mentioned there about him getting warm. If he does get warm, I don't think it's a negative, because he's done it consistently throughout his career. That's just him. Aidan Coleman's on record multiple times. He's probably sick of saying it now. He said this is a very kind-hearted and straightforward horse. So if he gets a little bit warm, I actually think that might be a plus, because that means he's up for it. He's ready. And so, yeah, if you do see him getting warm, it's not a negative.
Producer Daniel Hussey has put in the comments, Cashback and Notebook had a tough race at the Dublin Racing Festival for bombing out at Cheltenham. Like that. Good point. And I feel it's almost as if people have forgotten that this horse is trained by Nicky Henderson. There we are. El Fabiolo probably goes and shits up. Happy days. Let's move on. This is the Ultima. 4 different horses going up in this. Prices are as follows, with Corach Rambler, last year's winner. Mihal DC's Early Shout, 8.0. Into Overdrive, 9.4. 11.0 for Nasalan. Mob Big Genius, 12.5. Fast or Slow, 12.5. 13.0 Oscar Elite, 18.0. And Bigger the Rest. Ed Quigley, come back in, sir.
Yeah, fascinating, isn't it? Obviously, Corach Rambler, last year's winner, £6 higher. The price has totally gone for me. And the big difference this year compared to last is Corach Rambler is very much being trained with the Grand National in mind this time around. You know, this is the inverted commas, the prep run before the National. Whereas last year, I think this was more of a target, for want of a better phrase. So I've just got to wonder whether clearly they have the horse straight enough. But with Aintree, you know, less than a month away, there's got to be in the back of their minds. They probably wouldn't want to go to the bottom of the well with him on what could be pretty soft ground. So, yeah, I think this is wide open. Great to see such a big field. I'm going for an absolute lovable rogue in this. An individual who's not won enough, as his probably raw ability suggests, but I'm going win and place with the big breakaway for the Joe Tizard team. This horse is gloriously slow. He's a glorious plodder. I mean, he was last seen chasing home 2 Amigos in the Welsh National with the mud flying over 3 miles, 5 furlongs. But that pretty much tells you all you need to know. And I wonder, Tom, in this type of race, this could be a contest where you get a little bit too caught up on weights and measures and collateral form, and it's just going to come down to a battle of wills, especially if we get some more rain overnight. 3 miles, 1 on the old course. This is going to start to get churned up. This is going to be real heavy weather. And also worth bearing in mind as well, this horse has got some pretty decent record at Cheltenham. He's run here 3 times. Once was when 4th to Envoy Allen in the Ballymore, which, of course, at the time looked very, very good form. His only win over fences, funny enough, came here when dotting up by 10 lengths in a novice chase on deep ground. And on the other occasion, finished 3rd to Monkfish in the Brown Advisory. So clearly the stamina demands of Cheltenham when he gets off ground all kind of play to his strengths. I'd say from a handicapping perspective, he doesn't have a great deal up his sleeve. But as I said, I'm not totally convinced. Like most years, this is one where you're looking with something that's 10, 12 pound well in. I think this can be who's going to cope with conditions and who's going to run through a brick wall for you. The big breakaway is to say that he's not got a most prolific profile, on soft ground and at Cheltenham, he's produced arguably 3 of his best performances. So he'll do for me at a big price to win and place. If he stays on into third past beaten runners, it wouldn't shock me in the slightest.
Don't know if I read out his price. Apologies if not. I'm sure we can flash up the betting again. And I know Adele's is 9.4. We'll come to that very shortly. But your selection is what we got?
22.
22.0. There we are, 22.0. Right, Adele.
Bit stronger on this horse on our anti-post podcast, purely because the ground was obviously looking like it was going to be better than what it looked like. It's looking like it's going to be. So I am a little bit wary on the ground with this horse into Overdrive, because all his wins have come on good to soft. He's been placed on soft, so I'm not 100% sure how well he'll handle it, depending on how soft it's going to be. But you can't knock his form at all this season. He's only been beaten by Lahon Press. He then went up £5 for that, and then ended up running a brilliant race at Wetherby in the Roland Merrick. The horse that behind him sounds Russian. They're going for the Gold Cup with him, and he's been mentioned on a few people's radars for that race. So his form's strong enough. He's a very strong traveller. He doesn't do a whole lot in front, I don't think, when he hits the front. So I still think there's still, some improvement in this horse. We know the North have got a good record in it. Would love to see Jamie Hamilton and his family with a big winner down at Cheltenham. They're such nice people. But again, I'm just a little bit wary on the ground. So it would be just like a small win place bet for me.
Okay, Rixie, I really hope your boy doesn't win, no offence, because I loved him for the plate, no? And did you think he was going to line up in this?
I wasn't sure. I suspect you're basing all that on trip.
Exactly that trip, yeah. Can I just throw Matt Toombs' stat that he gave? This isn't to take away from your selection at all, but I think it ties in with this horse, interestingly. And that is that every winner this century had won over at least 3 miles, and some of them have won over marathon trips as well. So he's maybe it's wrong to use that for me ruling him out, because I think he's one of the most. I think he's probably the best treated Irish chaser potentially, but I've left him alone on account of that.
Yeah, I suppose it depends how you want to look at things, isn't it? Could you make a case on the other hand and say he's unexposed over the trip,
sure,
and maybe got more to come? He is by son to son. Like top class sire Jacket Gold Cup horse, sire Protectorat Gold Cup horse, sire Quito de la Rock as well. I think had plenty of form over 3 miles plus. So yeah, I can see that. And the other thing as well, it just depends how the race is run. You do know he will travel through the race with a touch of class. And having gone back and watched he ran in the John Durka behind Galopin des Champs at the start of the season. It was a seasonal debut. He showed a serious touch of class to go through that race so well. I think it was only 3 out or 4 out that he kind of started to come under pressure when the pace was really lifting, which is fair enough. We should probably remember, Martin Brazil has won Grand Nationals. He probably knows a good stare when he sees one. The horse as well is only a 7-year-old. He's still a young horse, got his best days ahead of him. When he was second, just touched off in the Coral Cup last year behind Commander Fleet, did start to get a little bit outpaced, coming down to 3 out, and that was on very soft ground before staying on strongly late with a good attitude. So I think when you kind of factor everything into it, I think that the trip is definitely worth a go. I hope JJ Slevin bounces him out nice and handy and just lets him travel, because he's going to travel through this race with a lot of class. And some of these renewals can be quite tactical. If it turns into a tactical kind of race, going up in trip, and he's in the first 7 or 8, that's all going to play to his strengths, and it's not going to kind of test his stamina as much as you'd maybe suspect. So yeah, look, I like him. Comes here off the back of a similar prep, ran at Leopardstown over an inadequate trip. Takes a big step up in trip. Yeah, I like him. I would say that the handicapper hasn't missed him. I'd say 150, just about fair enough. But yeah, I think he's probably a little bit more. He's better handicapped than Into Overdrive for me was the other horse I looked at.
Giles's comment's interesting. Fantastic has £18 better off with Correct Rambler compared to last year. Very well backed as soon as the declarations came out. He's also got the headgear on first time in the Ultima trend, which for some reason can be a thing. He's got tongue tie on for the first time as well. I can see why that's interesting. I like Cloudy Glen, who was the old Hennessy winner last year before pulling up at Wetherby and then not in the Royal American. And then he was disappointing at Donny. He then hasn't been seen for a long time. So that's a concern. I don't know what the issue was. He ran okay in was it the Grand National trial? Yeah, last time. But, he'll stay. He was a runner-up in the Kim Muir here back in the 2021 season. So, and we know that's a good bit of form in behind the mare that won that, Mount Ida. Rated 140 then, just £5 higher here. I thought he was a fair shout, win and place, but it wouldn't be that confident. He's actually shortened up a good bit since. He was around about 26.0. He's more like 16.0 now, I think. Okay, moving on to the not so small matter of the Champion Hurdle. I don't know who's got a bet here. I mean, I obviously stupidly suggested Constitution Hill should be a lay. So I'm going
Can we have that graphic up again?
Bloody hell.
I'm still going to stick with it. I'd rather lay him than back him. I think
have to now. This is live.
Yeah, no, I'd rather lay him than back him. I would 1.3.
I can't believe it. You can't have lay next to the name of Constitution Hill at all.
Value loser in the bank. I thought you stopped doing value losers.
Yeah, you're right, mate. I'll come back to it. My best lays, I'll stick him up, and you can put all your graphics on the screen you like. But, I don't mind taking some silly shorties on personally. He's still got to get round. I think State Man's the only likely danger to him for all. I like to move it. I was half interested in if there was a bigger field, but is anyone going to back him at that?
No.
I don't know.
Wimps.
I don't know if Matchbook are going to be doing a distance market.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
Well, what distance you on? What distance?
Over 10 lengths for me.
I don't know, am I that confident? But I think I'd be surprised if he wins. I'd be disappointed if he doesn't win by at least 5.
Okay. Well, how would you price up? Here's one for you. How would you price up over 20 lengths?
Oh.
What price should that be?
That's a very good question.
20 to 1.
Yeah, I was going to say something like that. 20s.
Yeah, is that what? Yeah, I would say 20s as well.
Because it's got that would be.
That would take a lot of doing. I thought I was kind of being bold with 10. 20 would be. It wouldn't surprise me either. Because he's just an absolute beast.
I could see him winning by 10. But the other thing is, Nico can't be stupid here. We want this horse around for seasons. If I'm an owner of a horse like this, every race a horse goes to win as easy as possible. That's the only thing. But this horse is a freak of nature, so. And the other thing is,
lengths 22.
Yeah, but I suppose the thing with that is John Bond was taken on for the lead, so 22 lengths probably does flatter Constitution in some ways. The other thing is that I don't think Statement's as good as the market suggests. I really don't. I do like him, wonderfully straightforward. And if after his Morgana run, the first thing we were all probably saying is his jumping needs to improve. His jumping definitely has improved. He's actually a pretty solid jumper now, but I think he's got a BHA mark of 167. He has not earned that yet, not in my money. I think Constitution Hill, for me, ran to 172 in the Supreme last year. He earned every single pound of that. So, I don't know. I was looking at maybe something silly with Zanny here, maybe without Constitution Hill. Just if they go forward on Statement, he gets softened up and some horse picks up the pieces. Maybe not so sleepy goes forward as well. Maybe I like to move it as well. He won a great one going forward. If all that could just soften up Statement on the back of me having the opinion that he's not as good as his rating, maybe something that a wild price could sneak in. But the other thing is he's kind of lost his way a little bit, Zanny here. But there was a little signs of life last time, to be fair. I think it took him a little while to get over that bad fall at Aintree. Last time out, he ran well in the worst place tactically, probably come forward for the run. But a better ground, I think, would have helped as well. But yeah, sorry, that's me done in the Champion Hurdle.
How do you know that if State Man's the first horse to get him off the bridle, Constitution Hill has nothing under there? How do we know that?
Well, you don't categorically. But every indication we've seen is that there's a lot under the bridle. When a couple of times he's been asked to kind of go up one gear, he's left the rivals for dead in a matter of strides. I was kind of buying or selling it 6.5 lengths, but that was my line for this, for what it's worth. But I actually think State Man will get him, at least ask him a question to go through the gears. I don't think any of the others have the ability to do it. I don't think they do. So I think it's a very thin race. I think State Man will ask Constitution Hill to quicken up. I think he will. I think he'll go clear by half dozen lengths, and Nico can wave to the crowd. And I backed State Man a year ago for this, so I'm hoping for some kind of apple cart upset. But heart not trying to rule ahead. I don't see it. I actually think this ends pretty much in betting order. Just tactically, it will be interesting if they try something different with Vauban. Obviously, he's jumped like a snooker table on his 2 starts so far this season. He's lost a lot of ground. I'm not sure whether they want to mess around trying to hold him up with the ambulance and pick off rivals. I wonder if they might. I don't know if tactics are going to be different here. It's quite a small field, whether they might let him bowl along, because he stays well. Obviously, a Triumph Hurdle winner, 2 miles, 1 furlong on the new course. He's not going to be found wanting for stamina, I wouldn't have thought. So I don't really see it in his best interest to be kind of giving 15 lengths to them and look to come with some late rattle, unless they literally are riding him in inverted commas to finish third and pick up the pieces. Tactically, that's the most interesting part about it. Whichever way you slice it, though, whatever the tactics, I admire your bravery, Tom. You're the most fired up I've ever seen you on one of these. Now, the lack of sleep with a newborn is clearly doing you some good. Facel Vega, a horse who was tailed off last time out, is your nap. You're laying the best horse in Sister Brat. This is what we want. Good luck to you. Constitution Hill beat State Man, and we go for a diet lemonade after.
Good. Right, we're moving on. To be honest, I'm likely to be wrong. Let's be honest. Okay, the mares, Adele Mulrennan. You told us 3.5. Here she is. Honeysuckle 4.9, 6.8. Brandy Love. You sticking with her, Adele?
I find this so tough. I find it really tough. Like, I know I was against Marie's Rock on our anti-post podcast, and I was going with Epatante, but I honestly kind of thought that Marie's Rock was going to go for the stayers. So I was in a bit of a dilemma when I seen them both in there. I just think Epatante is it's so hard to knock what she's done this season. Her only defeats coming to Constitution Hill, who's, arguably the best in training. And I don't know what it is with her. This season, she just seems to look better than ever. Like, even like when you see her in a flesh, she looks $1 million. Good reports about her. But Marie's Rock is, I think she's very solid. She'll like the ground. She stays. And she's very much huge. She's very much hugely improved. And I still think she could, improve again. So it's tough between the two of them. I think I upset Ralph by not picking Marie's Rock in the anti-post bet, but this is the whole point of it. It all changes, the grounds change, the rains come, so this is where you kind of you start to really kind of get serious about your bets. So yeah, I've changed my mind and I'm going to go with Marie's Rock.
Rixie?
Yeah, I'm with Adele. I really like Marie's Rock here. She's a year younger than both Epatante and Honeysuckle. Honeysuckle, I think she's on the downgrade. I think if I had one horse to kind of as a dream story, and I hate doing this, it would be to see her win, but I just can't back her. I think, I thought she only ran to around 148 on seasonal debut, and I was willing to see her improve going to Leopardstown. I don't think she did. I was disappointed with given how tactical the race was, how she didn't finish out her race like she usually does. So, look, I'm going to go with the year younger Marie's Rock. Epatante as well. I don't think Epatante is returning in great order this season. Now, that could have been that she's just coming up against Constitution Hill twice. But then, she did win the last time out at Donny. That race at Doncaster on good ground, which she loves. It was an awful race in the context of this race. So I'm taking on two horses who are on the downgrade, in my opinion. Honeysuckle as well probably doesn't want all the rain, because it just puts the extra emphasis on stamina. Marie's Rock bolted up in this race last year. She was so keen to win as well as she did. I thought was really impressive, and she's improved maybe 9 or 10 pounds since last year. softer ground in her favour. Yeah, I think she's probably one of the bets of the meeting, to be honest.
Love it. And you also, in a roundabout way, said Constitution Hill's form shit. So there you go.
Yeah, actually, yeah, thinking about now, he is underpriced. I might lay him.
Where are we going? Yeah, I agree. Marie's Rock. I'd love that Honeysuckle win, but I've got nothing to add to that. Marie's Rock should be favourite. I don't think there's any juice in her price, but as I pointed out, there doesn't need to be. Most likely winner at 3.5. Very nice. Brandy Love is 6.8. Ed, quickly.
Yeah, indeed. I'm taking on the top of the market here. Take the points on board Marie's Rock. I think this is a much deeper race than the one she won last year. You know, beating Queensbrook by a length and a half. I think there's a lot more in here. I would have gone Stayers personally. Marie's Rock is just a personal view. I agree. Honeysuckle, as lovable as she is, you know, there's a lot of horses in here who have been superstars, are probably on their way down. I think she'll run a race, but not sure 2.5 miles of tested ground is going to be a bag, which has got to be a huge worry for Epperton. It has. I mean, she's a massive drifter in the market. This rain has got to be of a major concern. I mean, she's tackled this trip once, which was on rattling quick ground on a flat track like Aintree. And, I mean, yeah, she scooted clear from a couple of staying chasers in Montmoral and something else. And I think, you know, people have kind of pigeonholed her saying, oh, yeah, she gets 2.5 miles fine. I think there's a world of difference between racing Montmoral over 2.5 miles of good ground at Aintree and this on soft ground with a big hill. I just wonder whether the weather gods might have done for her personally. So I'm looking at the younger, fresher legs, and Brandy Love I'm very keen on. I think far too much was made of a Punchestown comeback where, say, I'm no paddock judge, and but I'm told by the kind of troops on the ground were there that she was carrying more condition than me after a night in Five Guys, to be honest with you, and she was in need of that run. Willie Mullins kept saying, we must get a run into her, must get a run into her. In hindsight, I don't think it was a bad run at all, giving £9 to Queensbrook. She travelled like the best mare in the race for 90% of it. I think she touched around 6s on in running and then just blew up like a mare who was a couple of gallops short, I think. Paul Townend's elected to ride her. I think she'll strip a lot fitter for that. I think coming left-handed looks as though it's going to be a huge fillip to this mare as well. And if you go back to that performance at Fairy House last year where I interviewed Johnny Burke recently for publication. He was on Love Envoy in that Fairy House race. He said he thought he had the race sewn up and he could not believe this mare that just took off and went past her like he was stood still. And he was, you know, they're all a bit downhearted there, the Harry Fry team, especially on the back of the Cheltenham Festival win. And I do not think they could believe the manner in which Brandy Love turboed clear. She's got winning form on soft ground. I think she's a major player, to be honest with you. I'm just looking at the younger generation coming up as a general rule. You know, you don't win anything with kids, Alan Hansen said, but you probably do at the Cheltenham Festival. And I would be that way. And I probably will have a saver on Love Envoy at double figure price, just on the basis of conditions could not be any better for Harry Fry's mare, it has to be said. But yeah, Brandy Love for me. I'm taking on the more established protagonist, shall we say.
All right, that's the mare's hurdle. Don't we come on to the Boodle? It's not going to be easy to solve necessarily. And prices are as follows: 5.7 for Cow, 7.2 for Biker, Bad 9.0, Surrounding 13.5, bigger prices thereafter. Ed, you coming? Because I agree with you with your selection. Metamorphosis, I think, is very interesting on the second start of the yard.
Yeah, was with Timothy Doyle on the penultimate start. Punchestown bolted up on very deep ground, and then it's that aforementioned hipsters race, isn't it? It's the Nace race last time out, which has a habit of producing horses who win or go very close in this contest. I think 3 of the last 5 winners have come out of that, and Metamorphosis was 5th, but the ground will have more good in it than anything else, and I don't think that would have been in his favour. And without getting libel lawyers on my case, was ridden with sympathy on that day with a view of bigger targets ahead. And obviously reopposes a few of those from that Nace meeting, but on much better terms. Gets in here off 125 on soft ground. Paul Nolan and the syndicate, when they bought this horse off Timothy Doyle, said this was always the plan. I wouldn't be shocked if there's a big run here. Look, it's a bit of a lottery. The talk course has been bad. Of course, the Ben Pooling team, who's been lotted a BHA mark of 126, which is £12 lower than his French mark. Of course, we've seen that the likes of Gaelic Warrior went closer. Upeti Swan did a similar thing on British debut for Paul Nicholls in one of the races a few years ago in a handicap where got given a 10 or 12 pound lower mark by the British assessor and was kept fresh first time out. So I could see the appeal for Bad with Rachel Blackmore booked in the plate, but the kind of price is evaporated now thanks to the preview circuit. So yeah, Metamorphosis for me, win and place markets will love the ground.
Yeah, I agree with that run last time. Never really put into the race when you seem to want to be a little bit up there. The other one who I thought was interesting was Gordon Zora, who's massive outsider of the field, purely on form with the Charles Burns horse. I know he had a spin on the flat last time, but if you go back to the biker run at Naas, he's got like nearly a stone swing, I think. And I just thought Gordon Elliott's won it with outsiders of his before, so I thought he was massively overpriced as outsider of the bunch. 80.0 win and place. Rixie, no bet for you, is it? Adele?
This way, because he looked like he was getting better with his jumping, but then completely stuffed the last race in the Adonis. I think he's got a good bit of ability. He just does need to kind of pick his legs up a little bit. I mean, he really is very messy at times, but he's been consistent enough this season and looking for value because we've had one favourite win this in the last 10 years, and Jeff Kidder won at 80-1. So you definitely want to be looking for things with value. And he still pulled well clear with Nusser that day. So I think he still could run another good race. Wouldn't be going wild on him. Certainly won't be putting a fortune on him, but just a small little win place bet on him.
Okay, the National Hunt Chase is not the most exciting. Rixie can deal with this because there's not really any strong shouts elsewhere. But Gaia de Menel is a warm order at the top, 2.06. I think that's fair enough, particularly on last season's 3-mile novice form, Rixie.
Yeah, look, I think he's got a significant class advantage in this race. Experience in the bag, straightforward horse, jumps well, travels well, trained by the right man. I think he should be odds on. I know a lot of people will probably point to the Ferry House run last year and say that he didn't stay, and I could possibly see that, but he still ran to a good level in a race. You know, a handicap in theory, every horse has an equal chance of winning. Here in this race, he's definitely got a class advantage. He's a year older, a year stronger, experience in the bag. I just think he wins. Simple as that.
Agree. Simple. Moving on to the long shots. 11.0 plus, please. Mine is Cloudy Glen in the Ultimate for reasons I've already given. Adele, your long shot?
Go for, I can't remember now.
Perseus Way, you
Perseus Way, yeah. That was the only biggest one I picked, yeah.
Rixie, your long shot?
I think mine just scraped in with a faster slow in the Ultimate.
3 in the Ultimate. Ed?
Yeah, well, the big breakaway. Bigger the test the stamina, the more his chance.
Best lays then on Tuesday. Yes, I am. If it happens, I tell you what, I don't know. I'd rather be a layer than a backer. That's that. Adele, who's your lay?
For Sale Vega.
So Vega. Ed, you agree?
Yeah, find a 9-4 poke at Sedgefield instead.
Okay, Rixie.
It's going to be Mr. Coffee 2 places in the National Hunt Chase. I just thought he didn't stay last year in the Kim Muir over 3 miles 2, and that was a tactical race. To be fair to the horse, I do think he is better this year. He's bigger and stronger, but I think kind of what comes with bigger and stronger is generally muscle, and he's going to have to carry all that extra over this trip. So lay Mr. Coffee 2 places in the National Hunt Chase.
Okay, best bets on Tuesday. Adele, your best Tuesday bet, day one of the festival, is?
John Bomb.
Rixie.
Marie's Rock in the mares.
Ed, you taking him on?
Yeah, Brandy Love.
And I'm on the...
That's good. Ed's only put that up because it's his favourite actress.
How do you know?
And actress, that's stretching it. And I'm with Facile Vega for the value lovers. Best bet. Thanks. Wednesday, the Ballymore. I haven't got prices up, even though I was asked to. So you can kick us off with the Team Steam, please, Adele. I've got to hope we're right.
I know, but did you hear what Paul said about him? So I was getting a little bit worried.
What did he say?
Well, he said the form was rubbish from the Challow and
Is this Paul Mulrennan or Paul Nicholls?
Paul Nicholls.
Right.
I was thinking, oh my word! I was thinking this
is he on the piss? The form's shit hot. It couldn't be better.
When did he say that? Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, he was saying all his form was working out.
No, it was like, was it yesterday or something? I was reading. He said, oh, he didn't think it was that strong, and he just he thought he was the one that handled the ground that day. And I was like, oh my word! I thought this is an absolute monster of a horse, Hermes Allen. He seems to have kind of like improved from every time he's ran. Like I was thinking, what am I doing? Anyway, I'm going against the Challow stat, and I'm going with him. I still think he's a serious horse, and surely the rain will make his case even stronger.
He'll be the first horse in 21 Challow winners to take a Ballymore if he wins, Rixie.
Well, I do think it's interesting that I do actually quite like the fact that he's got previous Cheltenham form there, if you know what I mean. Like Stage Star didn't, Brave Man's Game didn't. So I don't know. I'm kind of going with the fact that he might make his case a bit stronger, the fact that he's proven there.
Declan?
Yeah, look, I'm with Hermes Allen. Just at the prices, I think we'd probably get bigger because the market just always seems to hate Paul Nicholls horses, and there seems to be a lot of chat about Impere Passe. It sounds like he's got better, but and look, you've got to respect what's coming from these preview nights, and David Casey and all these guys. Look, I'm happy to go and let him win it at that price. Hermes Allen, a year older, a year stronger, more experienced, and an unbelievable jumper. So yeah, I'll take Hermes Allen, but it wouldn't be a confident selection. But I do think we'll get a little bit bigger than what's there at the moment. Oh, Tom is frozen. Adele, you're going to have to take over presenting duties.
He's gone about the value winners, isn't he?
What about you, Ed? Which way are you going?
Very, very small place on a bit of a roughie here. I thought American Mike, the fact they're bothering to run him, why bother running him? I mean, unless he literally is a social runner. Obviously, his bumper form ties in with Facile Vega from last season. Handle the ground. That's the thing. He's a marler. He's got lots of form on deep. I mean, his only whenever hurdles came on bottomless ground. He won his bumper on deep ground and Chase Stone Vassal Vega on deep ground. So I put a line through that run last time out over the minimum trip where he was clearly there just to get fit, for want of a better phrase, on good ground over 2 miles. Look, I wonder if they'll mix things up a little bit here. Davion, I wouldn't be shocked if he's ridden sympathetically to come and pick up some pieces here rather than gun him from the front, if you see what I'm saying, because I think there'd be a fair old gallop on here. I can't imagine Hermes Allen wanting to hang around. Gaelic Warrior likes to go forward. Master Chewy in the past has gone forward. Champ Keeley, I think it sounds like canny Danny Mullins is going to be on board, and he could be trying to execute those kind of flooring porter tactics again. So I think there could be a bit of a burn up here. I wouldn't be shocked if Davey just switched this horse off and looked to pick up pieces whenever he's had enough. So it was a race where I couldn't decide between the top 4 or 5. So I was looking at the place angle from a roughie to pick up the pieces. So yeah, American Mike to place is my tentative pick here with ground, which I do think could be crucial to him.
All right, I'm Hermes Allen. I know the Challow stat, and I know Nicholls has had a couple of horses like Denman and Brave Man's Game beaten in this, but this is a different type of horse. He's I don't necessarily think he is an out and out 3 mile staying chaser of the future. I think he's a bit sharper than those, and I can't work out why he's not at the top of the betting on form. Moving on to the Brown Advisory. I love what you've incidentally. Impere Passe is 2.9 and 4.33 for Hermes Allen. Your shot, American Mike, is just massive, 41.0. There you go. Brown Advisory then. Top of the betting is Jerry Colomb, who is actually fair enough, I think, at 2.4. The real whack is 6.0. So Gerhard 7.0. Gallia de la Tour has shortened up 9.5, as is Time Hill, and then we're into the bigger prices. Ed, Jerry Colomb, 1,000 point win, you say?
Well, I might make it 2,000 or something, but yeah, I think he's he's my banker on the Wednesday. Really, I'd be disappointed if jumping the last he wasn't staying on when others are cried enough. I mean, it's a little bit about what he's not done rather than what he has done. What he has done so far has been pretty good. I mean, the horse hasn't lost a race, and he's really taken well to fences. I think crucially at Sandown, it was the way he handled Sandown's fences. I mean, you see him in the paddock; he's all arms and legs. He's a big old unit of a thing. And I thought, oh crikey, as a novice going round Sandown, he could come a little bit unstuck so early in his career, and especially even connections were saying, well, we're going there for a bit of soft ground in the Scilly Isles. If you remember rightly, it barely was barely any rain all week at the Esher venue. The jockeys reporting the ground was riding just on the dead side of good to soft. And so he answered a question in many respects there that he could cope with the quicker ground, which was a worry. But when he was headed by Balco Coastal, I loved the fact when the chips were down, he really wanted it. He found more and he powered up that Sandown hill. I just think there's got to be so much more to come for him stretching out to 3 miles here. His kind of novice hurdle form would indicate that. I think all the rain that's arrived is going to be absolutely in his favour. And, you know, you've been talking, Tom, about different moulds of horses and different types of horses. This is your old-fashioned, stereotypical throwback 3-mile chaser. You know, this is an out-and-out, the Gold Cup horse in inverted commas for next year. He will stay all day. He jumps, he gallops. Of the others in there, I don't think this is a massively deep race. At least that's my view I've taken on it. I mean, Sir Gerhard has got the most bizarre prep coming into this ever, hasn't he? I mean, on hurdle form, yeah, he's a class act. He'd be given a stone to most of these in a handicap hurdle, but he's got to defy a crazy stat, which is Willie Mullins has never sent a horse to the Brown Advisory in his training career on the back of 1 chase start. So it kind of shows you often need to be have a lot of experience in the plate for this type of race. So I'm with Jerry Colomb. Time Hill, I think, is a lovely horse, but he's just a little bit of a crossbar horse in my view at the very top level. I mean, he beat the likes of Fabulous et al. At Kempton last time out. I think that's a stone away from what's needed here. And then you've got the Real Whacker, who, of course, is a glorious jumper. But again, I'm not convinced his collateral form in beating Montmoral is all that strong, especially considering the distance Jerry Colomb thumped Montmoral by at Sandown. So I'm with Jerry Colomb. I see the biggest danger being Dan Skelton's mare, Galia de la Tour, who's got her ground and will be getting the mare's allowance. And I think she's the one for forecast players. I think she'll chase him home. But I think Jerry Colomb, I think he'll come off the bridle. He might actually trade a bit bigger in running. I think there's a fair chance of that. But I doubt there'll be many staying better than him in the closing stages.
I'm Jerry Colomb. Also, 2.62 is that updated price. Apologies, 2.62. Adele?
This horse, well, we know he jumps and gallops for fun, and that's certainly something you want for Cheltenham, and we know that because he's won there the last twice over. He's not a one-trick pony, this horse. They're hard to come by horses like him that you can drop back in trip and show plenty of kind of speed, but then has got the stamina as well. Like, he really does jump for fun. He's very straightforward from what I can see to ride. I think if he was trained by someone else, one of the big guns, he'd probably be a bit shorter. The fact that he's trained by Patrick Neville up here is why he's 6.0. So I know Ed said, he's about with his form with Montmoral, but Patrick can certainly train. He's very bullish on this horse, and like I said, I just don't think there's what negatives is there about him as a horse coming into it. He's very straightforward. He jumps well and he gallops, and he'll certainly give you a good run for your money. So that's what I want to see when my money's down. So I'll happily take him at 6.0.
And Rixie, you agree?
Yeah, I do. I think Jerry Colomb is short in what he's done. I think the market is heavily factoring that he's going to improve, maybe 5, 6, 7 pounds over this trip, and he probably will. But that's not a given always. But I just thought at the prices, I thought the Real Whacker has stronger form. To be honest, I know that sounds a bit mad, but he's a horse who's very hard to read. I'd say his collateral form doesn't look that good, but the 2 times that he's gone to Cheltenham and he's won, he's been very, very impressive on the clock. His final circuit time when he won the last day at Cheltenham, the next race was won by the Skeleton horse Midnight River, which was a Class 1 handicap, and he absolutely butchered him in times, and he carried a pound more than him as well. I think he's a hard horse to weigh up, but he just could be a real class act. So yeah, he's hard to be confident in, but there's something about the Real Whacker that suggests that he could be very, very classy. Reminds me a little bit of Constitution Hill coming into the race last year. Some of his coming into the Supreme, some of his collateral form didn't suggest he was that good, but like what he was doing on the clock was outrageous. But it was just hard to kind of get him up to those numbers. And I'm sitting in a similar kind of bracket with the Real Whacker, but look, he does a lot of things right. He jumps well, he's got a touch of class, and he travels. And I think both times that he's been winning with a lot up his sleeve. So look, this thing when we say on preview nights, oh, he'd be shorter if he's trained by someone else, that is true, because training is a very important part of the game. But if this guy was trained by someone else, he'd be half the price. He could be anything, this guy. I really do. He's a likeable horse, but very hard to weigh up.
Giles and Alex are having an absolute Gerhard loving on the comments. So good luck to you. Absolutely good luck to you. Coral Cup. I'm not going to read out all the prices. I'm just going to throw them at you nice and quick. Rixie, who do you like and why?
Yes, I think I mentioned 2, Good Risk at All and Icar Allen. I think Icar Allen will get him back on soft ground, going up and trip. He's unexposed. The form of the Triumph last year is working out. I think like a lot of form that on that new breeding, the Betfair Hurdle Day, you could probably throw it out the window. The ground was just stupidly quick. He probably didn't like it. I'm willing to forgive that run. He's by Cocorico. A lot of his horses do well over these kind of intermediate trips. And the other horse is Good Risk at All. Didn't get into this race last year when fancied for it. He's just a horse that needs pace to run at. So I haven't had a chance to go through the DECS properly. The more pace on, the better, because it'll just help him switch off. I loved what he did at Carlisle at the start of the season. Had the race 1-2 out, idled his brains out. He's got a serious engine, this horse. Sam Thomas has done well with targeting horses at big races this year. Our Power has won, and I Will Do It as well. So I'm hoping it's a similar case here. So yeah, 2 against the field for me in the Coral Cup.
I'm having a bit of a flyer on one here in the form of Bold Endeavour. Is a massive old price. Very lightly raced for the yard. One on quick ground at Leicester over fences, then followed up over fences. They dropped him at the horseback over hurdles. Cheap piece on for the first time. Rated £5 low over hurdles. Nicky Henderson's got a good record in the race. It's just a race that I want to have a bit of a price on side. 50s, 33s, 28s, 20s, 16s, 12s, 14s, 33s, just 8s of the last 10 winners' prices. So he fits that sort of bill. Half a point win place. Ed?
Yeah, equine roulette to a large extent. I mean, I backed Compron for this race on December the 3rd. So I've got vested interest, but I actually think I've incinerated my money with the rain that's arrived. They've got so unlucky here because, if you remember rightly, this horse in the Coral Cup last year was smashed in. And it was the day when the absolute, the rain of all rains arrived at Cheltenham. And I think he ran remarkably well to finish 4th in last season's renewal of the Coral Cup, considering all his best forms on top of the ground. Well, a lovely bit of placing this time round again. They shelved the chasing career early, got him back over hurdles, and they got him in off 138. He's £2 lower. And I did a big interview with Aidan Coleman for the Irish field. He was just saying, crikey, if we can just keep the Gloucester Del Sol, the Costa del Gloucester over Cheltenham for the week in the build-up, he's got to have every chance. I just fear, as much as I think he is well handicapped, the ground could have just gone for him. So I'm going 2v the field, or a fresh one versus the field. I'm adding HMS Seahorse. I should have my Paul Nolan fan club t-shirt on, shouldn't I, for this show, really? But this horse has got some serious claims here. I think this trip he's totally untapped over. All his career wins have come on soft ground. 3 career wins all come on similar ground. I don't think the spring round would have been in his favour, conversely, or opposite to Camprond. And, of course, he ran a cracker in the Boodles last year where, look, you get hard luck stories, but he finished 4th, meeting all sorts of traffic and flew up the hill in the manner of a horse who would have a lot more to offer over an intermediate trip. So, I'm Camprond from 4 months ago with the Unrain Dance, and I'm a HMS Seahorse here now, who I think ground is perfect for him. He's unexposed, and he ran well on his only previous start at the festival.
All right, moving on to the Queen Mother Champion Chase. Everyone had a go there, didn't they? Except for Adele, who's no bet. Yes, everyone has picked the same horse here, which is frankly terrifying. And that horse is Edward Stone over Energumen, who are vying for favouritism pretty much at the top of the betting. Energumen ran about 2.6, ever so slightly shorter as Edward Stone. Editeur de Gite is 6.5. So What we got here, Adele? Go on. Why Edwardstone? Why does this set up for this horse?
I love Edwardstone. I wish someone had mentioned Editor de because he does deserve to be mentioned. Like, you know, the way he's ridden and like, how could you knock what he's done, that horse? But I do think I just wish Edwardstone would go back to the way they rode him last year. Like, they rode him a bit more prominently, whereas they've been holding him up this year. And I still think he's the one to take out of the race in the Clarence House. Like, he hit the front, but it'd given him a lot to do. I don't know. I just feel like Tom is riding him a little bit cautiously. Whether he was riding him to beat an Ergemin, which kind of then Editor de got obviously first run on him, but considering you'd rode him at Sandown and Editor de did exactly the same thing, I'm not quite sure what he's thinking. So I don't know whether Tom might ride him a little bit more forward this time. I would like to see it. You can't give lengths away like that to horses like Editor de, because you know what he's going to do. He's just going to try and win the race from the front and kind of, you know, gallop everyone into the ground. But I still think Edwardstone is the horse to beat.
Yeah, I felt that Alan King just wasn't that disappointed last night. I don't think he was absolutely fully revved up. I suppose my only concern is that he'd said he was going to run him in that and then run him at Newbury, but because the Clarence House was delayed a week, he then couldn't. But he know what he's doing. I thought he should be clear favourite. Declan.
Yeah, I just, with what Adele said there, I suspect, given the unseat Edwardstone had over Christmas, I think it was just a case of hopefully getting him around and getting a race into him, because, you know, he's a very highly strung horse, gets very fresh in between races, so he needed to have a race, I think. So yeah, I don't know. I still think maybe Tom could ride him quite cold here, because I think, like, I'd be baffled, really, really surprised if they don't go forward with an Ergemin. You know, I'm hoping an Ergemin goes forward, Captain Guinness goes forward, Editor de goes forward, Funambule Sevilla goes forward, maybe even Grenadine, and it all just sets up for Edwardstone. The other thing about this race I think is very dependent on ground. So we're talking about this race on Monday. We don't even know what the ground is on Tuesday, never mind Wednesday. The softer the ground, the better for an Ergemin. The better the ground, the better Edwardstone's chance. So we'll have to play it by ear. For me, I'd be a little bit worried about an Ergemin on kind of spring ground, because, you know, he gallops and he hits the ground hard, and he's just a high cruiser. I don't think he's got that turn of pace, whereas Edwardstone definitely does have that turn of pace. So look, I think this race, like a lot of races, is going to be very heavily dependent on what the ground and what the weather does. But at this moment, I'd be siding with Edwardstone.
Ed Quigley.
Unmute myself, it might help. Yeah. Regardless of ground, I'll be with Edwardstone. I just think I wonder whether Nurgamin's just got a little bit sour, and that might have been the tactics last time out. And it is obviously only one race of form to take on board. Obviously, Gentleman Demi's not in the lineup now. He's a last-minute defection. So, but I still think there's going to be enough pace on it. The head of affairs, Editor de will go forward. They've got to go back to the old swashbuckling tactics with a Nurgamin, in my view. Maybe they won't try and go hammer and tongs with Editor de at the head of affairs, but at least have him a lot more handy than last time out. And I think the team have pretty much covered it. I think there was a lot of cat and mouse going on. I think Tom Cannon was riding a horse who, you know, fooled him last time out. Let's get him right. Let's get him switched on. Alan King has said he missed a little bit of work, given he was a bit bashed and bruised up from his Kempton run. And I think it was all a case of with another day in mind. And I do think there was a bit of cat and mouse going on between an Ergemin and Tom Cannon on Edwardstone. Suddenly, Noel Houlihan had kind of slipped the field, hadn't he, with Editor de and the panic button had to be pushed. And the amount of ground Edwardstone made up, I was there live. I haven't watched a replay of it. And then when you see the replay, Tom Cannon's had to try and do an Arazi inside the closing stages. I mean, he's eating up 6.5 lengths coming up in the closing stages. And then I thought just blew up and flattened out slightly like an individual who needed that aforementioned bit of extra work, having missed a week or so on the gallop. So I think he'll be peaked a minute for this. 3 wins at Cheltenham, devastating in the Arkle. Didn't see which way he went in the Tingle Creek. I do not buy this back-fitted story about white boards and orange boards and advertising boards for the fences for the Willie Mullins camp and an Ergemin. To me, they're just having, he seemed to not have his spark about him that day. Now, you can forgive him one effort. Obviously, if he can come back to the form of last year, then yeah, by all means, he's a class act. But I just think Edwardstone could be peaked a minute for this cracking Cheltenham form, and he's the here and now horse, and I think he'll get the job done. And he's in my double with Jerry Colomb for the skinny mockers all round.
The 410 is the cross country. Just Adele and I with some sort of opinion on this. Adele, I thought Delta Work. I thought Matt Tombs made an interesting point about the drainage on the cross country course isn't really there, and that it could well ride pretty soft. That's likely to suit Delta Work, and I know Galvin's a concern for Delta Work backers, but I thought Delta Work odds against was fair enough. Yeah,
well, I've actually backed him anti-post for the Grand National, so I think he'll shorten up, of course, if he wins this week. Trying to go the same kind of route as Tiger Roll, having had a run over hurdles to sharpen him up before. So yeah, I mean, I thought it was a massive price for the Grand National. So I can't see why won't win this again. I mean, I laid Tiger Roll last year. I was an absolute villain, wasn't I, doing that? Can't believe I did it. But anyway, it didn't win. Delta Work did, so obviously got something right. So yeah, I just think I'll have him at the money because I said he's my anti-post bet for the Grand National, so I want him to win.
Delta Work went off favourite in the end last year. Extraordinary when you think about it. All right, let's leave that there. None too excited about that necessarily. The Grand Annual, some fair prices going up here. Rixie, kick us off.
Yes, if I'm being totally honest with DECS coming through today, I haven't had a chance to go through it perfectly in terms of pace and whatnot, but I do like Time White here. The key to him is being fresh. He hasn't run in 116 days. I love what he did at Ascot at the start of the season at their October meeting. He just absolutely bolted up. He's a big horse, this fella. I think he's only going to keep on getting better with time. He jumps well, he travels well. Idled the last day before he beat Ferreira Bamboo out the gate. Then he went to Ascot about 3 weeks later for a very, very strong handicap. I think this could be a key race for the Cheltenham Festival. It was won by Boot Hill. Obviously went on to boost the form behind John Bond. So Scottish is favoured for the plate. Before midnight, solid campaigner. Third time lucky, he was back in sixth. He's gone on to win again, but he was just lifeless compared to the earlier run. He needs to be fresh, and he is coming here fresh as well. Again, he's another one. I think maybe the better the ground, the better his chance. Although he did win at Doncaster last year on ground that had plenty of juice in it, but again, a little bit hard to be firm on some of these Wednesday races, given we're talking about them on Monday. But I do think the better his chance, the better the ground, the better his chance.
Okay. Time White for you. Last year's winner, Ed.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule out. I agree with a lot of what Rixie's saying, actually. Yeah, that just to add a bit of meat on the bone to that Time White stat. 2-1-2-2-1. Time White's form figures on the back of a 100-day layoff or more. So clearly been kept fresh for this. And I think Paul Nicholls, I saw an interview of him this morning saying, they do want the sun to come out for him. Want it to turn into a slog because he's such a good mover. But yeah, I wouldn't put anyone off him if we've got the ground drying up by the late afternoon on Wednesday. But Global Citizen, 11 years young, the age bias is against him. But we saw Croco Bay win this as a 12-year-old, didn't we, for Ben Case a couple of years ago? And this has been the target all season. And spoke to Ben, they've kind of plotted and fiddled their way around. They went to America. They've run him at Worcester. They've run him in a Kingwell hurdle, and it's all just been about getting him right for one day to try and defend his crown. He's only £3 higher. It goes on any ground. The Yard are having an absolute season to remember. Numerically, Ben Pauling has already surpassed his best total to date since he took out his training license 10 years ago. And everything he seems to be running is running like gold. Sneaks in here right at the bottom of the weights, the defending champion. I think there probably, on balance, will be something of younger legs that will go past him. But he'll go off in front, he'll jump for fun, and if he was there or thereabouts, jumping the last, I wouldn't be shocked. So I've got him to kind of hang on into the frame for the place markets. But I am kind of warming to Rixie's shout on Time White. But again, there is a bit of guesswork going on here as regards to how the ground is going to be late on Wednesday afternoon. If it is starting to dry up, I wouldn't be shocked if Time White was ridden cold from off the pace and came with a late rattle, because he is a horse with an excellent record when fresh.
My two are Andy Dufresne, who was last year's favourite, who bumped into Global Citizen. Interesting to put the tongue tie on for the first time. He was my shout a little way out, so I'm sort of sticking with him, but he is 6.5. The other one, Matt Toombs put me onto this one. He put it up on the handicap podcast, Sizing Potsy. He won a handicap in Ireland off 149, and now here he is lining up here off 140. I think he could just be incredibly well treated. He got the cheek pieces on for the first time. He showed nothing over fences with David Pipe, but I don't know. He's too well treated, I think, not to back. And Matt had pointed out about the British handicap chasers last year. Anything that had been dropped more than £10 had a pretty good record from the back end of the previous season. Well, he fits that sort of billing, as did Global Citizen, incidentally, coming into this race. So I thought he was too well treated not to have a little bit on Wynnum Place. On we go from the Grand Annual to the Champion Bumper. Last race we're going to be previewing, and I haven't got prices in front of me. I'll get them up very shortly, but Adele, I'll come to you first of all.
And I suppose you probably have to maybe side with her, considering Daryl's chosen her to ride over It's For Me. I just thought, when you look back through the run at Leopardstown on her reappearance, like, she was seriously keen, like really, really, really keen. And the fact that she looked like she was kind of going to bomb out, and then managed to kind of get a second wind and win by 9.5 lengths, I think you kind of need to think she's obviously got quite a lot of ability. So yeah, I quite liked her. I thought she's when I like to see their attitude tested like that coming into Cheltenham, and that's something I liked about her. If they go a good gallop, that'll kind of help her settle a little bit more. That is a little bit of a worry that she was so keen, but hopefully it was just kind of like a little bit of freshness, still a little bit of immaturity. So if they go a good clip, it'll suit her. Hopefully she'll settle. But yeah, just like I said, I think it was a performance that you could easily have kind of pulled out quite a few negatives, but in the end, it was quite a positive performance by her in a Grade 2 mares flat race. So yeah, I like her. Fun.
Rixie, you sit now.
Yeah, sitting the bumper out. I do think Willie Mullins has got a good chance of winning it, but I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. I put up his winner last year, Fassal Vega, as a lay, because he never wins it with his first string, and then there you go, off he went. Ed?
Yeah, I'm actually I've gone mad. I'm having a little bit of an involvement here Alan King's got 2 runners all week, which is absolutely mad when you think about it like that. One of them is Edwardstone. Here is Favour and Fortune, who absolutely spread eagle the field in a Warwick bumper on Kingmaker Day. Look, again, the raw form of it isn't anything great, but I'm not saying he's going to be as good, but it reminds me a little bit when Q-Card won an absolute nothing bumper coming into Cheltenham. And that kind of view was taken. Oh, it's just some egg and spoon race in England. Who gives a monkeys? But the way he went through the race, he tanked round like an absolute machine, and it was kind of push button stuff. He's a soldier of fortune out of a Fleming's Firth mare, so soft ground's not a problem, as we probably would have seen for the evidence on his debut at Southwell. And it's very interesting, this is a late Mr. Trevor Hemmings horse, and traditionally you would have thought Aintree would have been where they're going. The fact they're rolling the dice here, to me, I think speaks volumes. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he ran a huge race here, this horse. I think he's got a really bright future. Just one for the stats aficionados in there. A bit of more trivia than anything. Shinji is more or less the outsider of the field, now trained by Martin Keithley. He is Roger Varian's only winner under National Hunt rules, as far as I could see. I couldn't believe it. It was cold and raining in December. Roger Varian rocks up to Fakenham and watches his horse absolutely dot up in a bumper. He's been sold, gone to Martin Keithley, and he ran with plenty of credit last time out, and they're taking their chance here. But I thought that's one for the eggheads. But nonetheless, Favour and Fortune. I think I'm not totally convinced there's an absolute Irish superstar in here, whether we're looking at the kind of Envoy Allens or Sir Gerhard. So I think they're all pretty good. I'm not convinced there's an absolute standout. And the fact we've had so many headaches about jockey bookings on the preview circuit tells me the Closetter bunch are probably fairly closely matched, and there isn't one that's absolutely burning the rest of them away on the gallop. So, I just thought it was interesting. Alan King running 2, Willie Mullins more horses in the Supreme. Alan King's got all festival, kind of tells you a lot of what you need to know at the moment. But I do like this Favour and Fortune. Whatever he does, he'll be a smashing chaser in time.
I'm with Chosen Witness, who was hammered at the Dublin Racing Festival, ran a really poor race. But I do think, looking at his action and his form on debut, he probably wants a bit more cut in the ground. you've got to forgive him that disappointing run last time, but that money came for him, and he's a fair old price at 41.0. So Chosen Witness will get a small bit of my money. I'll probably back another Mullins outsider as well, because I think last year was a bit of an anomaly with the Mullins favourite winning it. Otherwise, I'll look for bigger prices. Best long shots, I should say, not best long shots. I'm with Sizing Potsy. Thank you, Matt Toombs, for that one, putting me onto that one, but I really like it. I can see the argument at a massive price. Rixie?
Yeah, going to be good risk at all in the Coral Cup for me. I haven't had a chance to go through the pace in the race yet, but the more pace in there, the better, just to help him get into a nice rhythm and travel.
Ed Quigley?
Favour and Fortune, win and place at 20s plus.
Lays. Adele, I know you were sitting that one out, and I'm not sure you got a lay either, which is absolutely fine. Ed, you're laying the Mullins chase.
Yeah, Nurgamine. Yeah, get stuffed.
It's Rixie.
Well, yeah, but Willie can get stuffed here as well, because I'm going to lay Sir Gerhard 2 places in the Brown Advisory. Very short in experience. We know he's a good horse, but you know, he's always looked a pacey horse. Over-travelled last year when he won the Ballymore up to 3 miles. Like, if he wins this, some horse, but you know, I can't really see it. But I don't know. Doubting Willie Mullins never seems to do Patrick Mullins much good, so I doubt it's going to do me either. But I just think the price is wrong. He looks very short, so yeah, happy to lay him 2 places in a decent race.
Good, and all aboard the Screw You Willie Mullins lay treble in Pere Destiny. Useless, Mullins, you useless. And that is because best bet. I'm very confident about Hermes Allen, who I really think is the best. The best British novice out there, and he'll be the best at this distance as well, better than Imperial Pass. In the Ballymore, he's my best bet. Adele, your best bet?
I'm going with Edward Stone. It was going to be Hermes Allen, but then, like I said, after hearing a couple of negative things that Paul said, it worried me a little bit. So I've gone with Edward Stone because he was my next best.
Rixie?
Yeah, it was Edward Stone for me as well. Just hope, you know, the ground isn't riding very, very soft. Not that it won't he won't be suited by it, but I just think faster ground inconveniences and urge me more.
And Ed Quigley, your 1,000-point win is?
Yeah, well, and next best will be Edward Stone, but yeah, Jerry Colon wins this, and he'll be about 6s for the Gold Cup 5 minutes after the race for next year.
Ed, Adele, Declan, thank you very much for taking an extended hour out of your time to preview days 1 and 2 of the Cheltenham Festival. That was the latest.
You've got to get a T-shirt with this on, haven't you? It's got to be like
I bet Nicky or something. I'll see him at the festival, and he'll be, I don't know, whatever.
Look, if it does come in. Think of the merchandise.
Who wins? I think you've got to send him some polo mints. You know.
Who, Nicky?
Well, yeah, Nicky as well, if you want.
Yeah.
Boss, say, Tom, you got to get it added onto your gilet there, isn't it? Like hashtag, like for an hour. It's got to be in the merchandise. Beanie hats with the whole lay Constitution Hill. Win, lose or draw. Got to stick to your guns.
Overhyped. There's nothing under the bonnet. That's it. 1 and 2 Cheltenham Festival podcast. We'll see you Wednesday at 6:30 for days 3 and 4. Hopefully we're not skimmed by then. Yeah. When the fun stops, stop and all that. All the best. Have a great days 1 and 2 of the Cheltenham Festival. Ta-ra.